awakening to universal knowledge and consciousness through uplifting interviews and soul-stirring conversations to help you realize the divine power, force, and energy inside of you, your Sacred Valley. Expand your mind and free your spirit with Sacred Valley Podcast. Truth, sovereignty, freedom, these are the rights we're passionate about and the things that we discuss here at Sacred Valley Podcast. Today's guest has undoubtedly been denied all three of those things and so much more. Before we begin, Meghan is on her way. She's not in the backstage yet. I want to apologize. I'm supposed to be living on Rumble. I couldn't figure that part out. I think I'm live on Facebook and I think I'm live on Twitter. This is my first time I'm living, so I really apologize for those of you who are trying to watch this on Rumble. I will upload this as soon as we're finished recording, and I will get it to Rumble immediately. It usually takes about 30 minutes to upload. Technology, not exactly my strongest point, but as I said, hopefully Facebook will have it on. I don't know. I might get banned off of Facebook. I'm banned off of YouTube. I've been banned since, I don't even know when, before February. And what kind of sparked this update with Meghan, so many of you know about her story. If you don't, please check out my Rumble channel and also my YouTube channel, Sacred Valley Podcast. I have done 3 videos with Meghan where she talks about just about everything that you'll need to know. But I was banned back a few months ago, but the other day I thought I would just go and check my channel, and I realized that I had over 15,000 views on Meghan's video. The last time I checked 2 months ago was probably 900 people. So we were very shocked to see how many people were so interested. There were a lot of comments and a lot of people asking questions. So I said to her, hey, let's do an update. Let's give these people what they want to know. I went to a hearing with Meghan last week, and we're going to talk about that. She and I have been keeping up to date with things, so we're going to get into all that. But before we begin with the Meghan story, which is just really unbelievable, I want to share 2 important sponsors with you guys that you can find down below. And if they're not there yet, I'll make sure they're there when this is all said and done. If you haven't purchased gold and silver yet, you know by now about the value in owning gold and silver versus fiat currency, which is rapidly decreasing in value on the daily. It still isn't too late to get in on the game if you haven't. You don't need tons of money to invest in, especially silver. Hedging yourself against the dollar and the high costs that we're experiencing right now is just such a great idea. It makes you feel really good to know that you're doing something for yourself and for your savings. If you contact Dr. Kirk Elliott below, either via phone or a website, you can still get in on the silver game. Silver is miraculously still under $25 per ounce. The last I checked about an hour ago, it was about 23 and some change. Now, we all know that's being manipulated. It should be so much higher. But even with the service fee that you can't get away from, you have to pay a service fee when you buy coins, it's still super affordable. And purchasing even just a few ounces of silver will make you feel more confident rather than just keeping your money in the bank and watching the value dwindle right before your very eyes. So give Dr. Kirk a call or check out the website. The cool thing with what he offers, which is so different than any other gold and silver purveyor out there, is that when you go to cash in your coins, say silver goes to $500 an ounce, just an example. A lot of people think it could be that or higher. You don't pay a service fee on the end, where everywhere else you pay a fee on the front and at the back end. So it's different. You save a lot of money that way. Check out the links below. Take some action toward protecting your savings. I know you won't regret it. The second thing quickly I have to mention, because so many people are having amazing results with this stuff, it's called ASEA Redox. It's cell signaling supplement. Say that 3 times fast. ASEA Redox. I've only been taking it for a short period of time, but people are raving about this stuff. My friends are using it. I'm reading all of the testimonials. What it's doing for people is they're feeling younger, fitter. They're like more rested. They have more energy. Their levels are like through the roof. So I just started giving this to my 16-year-old kitty, Shanti. And I don't know if you're supposed to, so I'm not claiming this, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw a few drops in her water because she sleeps like 18 hours a day. The last 3 days, I've noticed a change in her. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. She is more energetic. She's awake and outside from under my bed, which is where she sleeps most of the time. So it's just interesting to see how much more alert she is. So I'm going to continue giving it to her. I'm going to continue taking it. like I said, I'm not sure if it's prescribed for animals, but I gave it a shot. But check out the video below. I'll post it here if you want to try a SIA. Okay. So Meghan and I have been keeping in touch behind the scenes, and we decided it was time for an update. Okay. I told you guys about that, about the YouTube channel. She has a really vicious custody battle going on right now. It's being waged against her by her mother and her father, who most know about the TV crime host, John Walsh. He's famed America's Most Wanted host. So let's bring Meghan on now. Hi, Meghan. Welcome.
Hi, Tara. How are you?
Happy. How are you, more importantly?
We're here. We're hanging in there, keeping the fight going. Thank you.
I know. I just wanted to have this update. As I told you the other day, I was so surprised to see how many people were watching our video that we did back. It was like 4 months ago, I think, when we did that. So I was really surprised, but I thought, well, let's do an update. I know that you have things to share. We saw each other last week. Where should we start?
Oh gosh, where should we start? Well, I want to thank you for having me back, and also, for coming out last week. For people that don't know, what we're referring to is I had a hearing, with DCF in Florida. It's DCF, nationally known as CPS, Child Protective Services. Many of us call it Child Predator Services. But we did have a hearing for that, and Tara was amazing to drive across the state and come out and support in person, which is really what this effort and this, issue really needs across our country. So thank you, Tara, for really, being that literal person showing up and being a support, and showing that to the courts and the county. But we did have that, and it was quite an interesting, I guess we could start with that. It was quite an interesting day. Wouldn't you?
I was flabbergasted. I still am, because I know your story, Meghan. I've been, had you on Sacred Valley for over 6 months now, and you and I chat a lot behind the scenes. So I know your story, but seeing you go through what you went through last week was heartbreaking. It was baffling. It was the amount of bullying that I saw and intimidation tactics that we experienced as support. And I went there not as a podcaster, not I didn't want to be a person of the media. I just wanted to be your friend. I just wanted to show up. So I knew that we could do this at another time. Right. And there were other people there. There were a few people. There weren't enough media. There was one guy from West Palm Beach who showed up. But considering the fame of your father and who he is and how famous he is, I just would have thought you would see hordes and hordes of media. And that's not what happened, sadly.
No, it's not. And it's been that way for a year now, sadly. We've spoken out, and amazingly, the podcast community, people like yourself, as well as many others, have had me on and really have their support behind me and our situation, as well as the larger national issue that we have with CPS stealing our children. And it's been wonderful that those people really understand and know where we're coming from with this being a racket, and how our children are stolen and then profited from, and how that is really the main source of trafficking in our country and in our globe. But we still have to reach the masses, and a lot of people automatically go to, well, what was the reason they took her children? Or, if she just does what they say, then she'll get them back. And unfortunately, it's a lot more complicated than that. And very unfortunately, it should be. And I think at this point, like you said, we've talked about this enough. We've been on, enough people have been exposed to this at this point to really see the literal ways that this is done, unfortunately. And it's not just, through the case plans, but also through, law enforcement intimidation and, the corrupt court system, whether these people actually have knowledge of the real situations that they're making judgments on, and determining the future and lives of others, and specifically children. And so I think that many people, at this point, it's nice to be able to come back where a lot of people are kind of questioning now, a lot more at least. So
I agree. It's definitely a paradigm shift that we're amidst right now. I can admit that not even, maybe 5 years ago, if I had heard that a mother had her children taken away, I automatically went to the assumption, well, then they would never take a child away from its mother unless she deserved it. Yeah, unless there was something there that warranted. her behavior, some criminal activity, an unfit
Mhm.
mom. And you know what? That's just simply another, I think, a brainwashing technique that we've all gone through. And I met a few women that were at your rally there before the hearing, before we all went inside and all the craziness began. And those stories were heartbreaking. Women who had their children. This man, the father, said he was holding his child and he was making dinner, and was it DFS came in and just ripped the kid out of his hands because he didn't finish 15 minutes of his last course
Yeah. Yes.
for whatever he had to complete for the
Yes.
courts.
They
He was
took their
doing it.
baby 7 hours after it was born. Yeah.
Yeah. That was so that was real and it was raw. I talked to these parents. I heard their stories. Another woman said she hasn't seen her newborn in over a year, or she hasn't had custody. So
Mhm.
your story, unfortunately, isn't uncommon. What makes it so uncommon is you're such a famous family, right? So
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
want to know, and I think in one way that can work to your advantage. And I think that you don't mind using that a little bit because people love the salaciousness of Hollywood, or the backstories of what people are really like versus the narrative that they give us.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're bringing a lot of attention. And what I loved about what you do, and I've told this to many people after coming back, and you're very consistent with what you say on every single podcast. You can listen to you on Michael Jaco. I can hear you on Nicholas Van Nyman, any show, my show. You always say it's not just about you. You're fighting for other people. I have goosebumps all over my body right now. Are you reacting right now? Because I'm literally have
Yeah,
goosebumps.
validation chills. Yeah.
Okay,
For
because that
sure.
happens to you and I. Oh my God, like
Mhm.
literally
Mhm.
cascading down my body.
Mhm.
So
And thank you for that.
no, it's true, and it's something that comes through, and I got to meet you this time finally, and you're an adorable tiny little thing, um,
Thank you.
a meek and
You
mild little
too.
Megan. But it's just amazing your consistency, your passion, not only for yourself. So we talked about this last time. I know you're not experiencing it. I just believe there's a reason this is all happening, and I just hope and I pray to God that we have a happy ending. I'm
Mhm.
not going to lie. After seeing what they did to you last week, Megan, I feel a little bit more defeated than I ever did. So let's talk a little bit about what happened for
Yeah.
those people who who weren't there, or Will Sabo on Facebook was there with us, and he has
Yeah.
a great he has all kinds of videos that he can share. So I'll put that information below.
Mhm.
But you had a hearing scheduled last Monday in Vero Beach, and
Mhm.
we all met out in front a little bit. You had a little like a small press conference for those of us who showed up, and then we went inside. And what did you think that hearing was going to be about?
Well, it was supposed to be a judicial review of the case plan, and it is an active case. So I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, she's not talking a lot about the case and different things," but it is still an active case. It is a confidential case. That's one of the loopholes and ways that they hide the realities of this system is by keeping it confidential. So there is a reason if I avoid certain things or whatnot, but that also really does enable me to keep it on the larger spectrum of this issue. I again, I can talk about myself all day, but we have hundreds of thousands of these cases that are even worse than mine across this country. So I really do try to focus on the larger picture, how we can really do, how the communities and how you can really change this and get involved locally. And so that's really where I am coming from. I was an advocate for reform or abolishment of this system, to be honest, prior to myself even being in this situation, and I will be after this situation and forevermore. And so I guess, to go back to Monday's hearing, it was supposed to be, we had the public there and different things, and about an hour before they changed the case plan, they changed their recommendations suddenly to termination of parental rights and adoption, which again, that goes back to us saying that years ago we would have never thought this, we would have never believed that this was happening. And like you touched on, it's a narrative that the masses were given, like many were realizing these days, to really make us complacent about it and not look into it and have that excuse to move on with our daily life and actually not even have to think about the realities of this system and what's being done behind closed doors, with children being taken by the minute, handed to abusers, highly incentivized, even going missing and still collected on, murdered, molested, just drugged up. There's every aspect of the system has some sort of racket on it. So when we went, they suddenly moved it to a TPR. out of procedure, and then that closed the courtroom. So what you experienced, we all walked in. They were doing the other dependency cases, and when mine came up, the judge made a whole thing about how this case isn't any different just because it's John Walsh, and that it's suddenly moved to TPR, so everyone needs to leave. And then that's when he called you all out for your phones and made you all give over your phones in the courtroom,
Oh my God.
which
Yeah, that
was
was hard.
wild. Yeah, that was very wild. And everyone had to leave, and that's when the sheriff's department had my mother and father escorted in.
Well, hold on a second. Not everyone had to leave. Everyone on your side had
Everyone
to
on my
leave.
side had
Everyone on
to.
the Walsh side got to stay. So that did not go
Yeah.
unnoticed.
Yeah, they did. And that's another reason why they went through this father, this absent, father that's saying he never even knew about his daughter, when he's known since the moment he made her that we had an agreement, and that, that she existed, which is very sad. If this man, that's an abuser too. If you're going to, another thing in this system that people need to know, healthy parents co-parent, and they support each other regardless, for the child's welfare and well-being and the best interest of the child. Truly,
And
any
you're talking about the father of your daughter.
yes.
That's who you're referring to. Okay.
Yeah, and any parent that's going to come in, whether it's a mother or a father, and want to take sole custody, want to keep a child from their parent and everything, that is an abuser, and that should not be allowed in this country whatsoever. I know DeSantis, we're very weary about a bill that he has to sign on or not, giving automatic 50-50 custody, which is very dangerous, as well as loopholes within the fathers' rights movement. But that's for another discussion. And I do support fathers and healthy relationships. I just, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that being used to give children to abusers or alienators or, whatnot. So we had the hearing, and yes, my father was escorted in. I was saying that they went to this father of my daughter, my parents did, so that they could still be involved. He has the same. They have both have the same lawyers. The elite, quote unquote, elite law firm out of Palm Beach, oldest in Florida. They brag about and all of this. And so they really did this so that they could see and still have control over the narrative within the case. So they're playing the victims, the caretakers, the shelter. They've given my children to the state. So Ron DeSantis technically has custody of my children and could sign in 1 minute to have them returned and actually do the right thing and look at the facts of this case, because there was no 60-day investigation required by law. There's been no proper due process in this. And we have, as you know, and many know that have been following, we have all the facts. We've collected, and the evidence and different things. And that's what parents across this country have. They have boxes of evidence and due process violations and all of this that are ignored by the court. And this is not even a true court. This is a privatized entity that's supposed to be a service for parents, and the control and the authority has just gotten out of hand. So I know I'm kind of again skirting around Monday, but there wasn't really much to talk about because it was what it was. They got shut out, and then the deputies brought in my parents through the back, judges
The secret
hallway.
staircase. How do you, if I were showing up in court, I wouldn't know who to call or how to get access to like judges' quarters, because we never
Mhm.
saw your dad. You did after they ushered us out and basically threatened us, took our phones, or at least a couple of us.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was I was looking at you sitting at the table alone, because once again, you had an attorney plan to come, and at 8:00 that morning, he called and canceled, right? And for no reason.
Well, we've been asking for a lot of different attorneys and no one will take it. So we were hopeful on a couple of attorneys that did not come through, called at the last minute and said that they couldn't take the case.
Yeah, right at that very morning. So I saw
Mhm.
you sitting in that big giant table by yourself, and I watched these this whole entourage usher in on your dad's side. I mean, attorney after attorney, guardian ad litem, counselor, witness. I mean, the juxtaposition of the two sides was so disparaging, and there was so much injustice. I was wondering how they could even, it's almost like, I mean, to use a loose analogy, like going to a baseball game and having there be like a pitcher and one outfielder against, 52 other players. It's so unfair. And just to see that was really,
Mm-hmm.
really striking
Mm-hmm.
and very
And
sad.
when you're in the justice system, you think that there's going to be justice. Like truth is supposed to be the main conviction at the end of the day. And there's just none. There's no conviction for the truth and procedure and protocol. It's used, it's definitely brought up against the parent who actually, when you're pro se, you're supposed to be given more leniency. You're not an attorney. And
Right.
that should not be used against you. And that just, we keep filing motions. I can't tell you how many I've written and never done this before. And that's the thing with this system as well, is I'm not the only one. These parents most people have to go pro se. They can't afford private attorneys. And if they try to, and when they do, they lose everything. I've lost everything to pay for an attorney that I found out was ineffective counsel, had her own issues, and was colluding, from what I've been told, by her own staff. So, and then a court appointed attorneys, I could have taken that, and which we are having to go with now. I'm being, threatened and intimidated into taking an attorney. And the court appointed attorneys, people don't understand, they take an oath to the bar. They don't take an oath to their clients. And, there are still certain things that they can and cannot do. And again, it's part of the racket, just like my initial attorney, most likely making a case plan agreement is what can happen a lot in the system, as the lawyers will get together privately prior to the trial and things, and make case plan agreements. So it looks like they're defending you, but they're, they know what DCF has to prove or what they need to do to be able to get through it. And then the appeals process is a joke, so literally what I was saying there is that, parents are having their children taken, which is trauma. Like when you love your children, to not have them every day and know where they're at, furthermore, maybe even not know where they're at, because if they're put in foster care, the parents are not even told where your children, where they are. So, being put through that and then expected to rise up and, get your life together. If it is, if there is a real reason, there are real, situations of abuse or neglect or, issues. And, that was a big thing that was supposed to be with Trump, his executive order and stuff. And I'm not political. This is a nonpartisan, issue that we all need to address and look at. And I feel blessed for that, to be honest, because I want nothing to do with politics. But the executive order is something that I, recently was looking into, and because it's something that I've talked about for a long time. We're not here to fight. This isn't a fight. This shouldn't be oppositional. There shouldn't be such this energy about it. It should really be about services for the parents. The executive order says that every effort needs to be made to keep the children in their primary environment, in their primary home. And we're still not seeing that happen. And DeSantis is not enforcing that, sadly. And kids are being taken without any efforts or offerings of services, which, these are adult issues. Children are put in, born into situations or put into situations. So for me, there's just very clear, better ways to address these situations and to truly protect our children, not be traumatizing them further under the guise of we're here to protect you. That's very, very dangerous and very detrimental for their psyche down the line and for our future as a humanity.
There's no question about it. Now,
Yeah.
the couple that I spoke of earlier, they were married. They had two small children. One of them was like a newborn. DFS came in, took his child out of his arms. What is so surprising to me, and I don't know if you can explain this or if anyone can, they took away their two younger children, who, by the way, were gorgeous little blonde-haired, blue-eyed angels. Yet they were able to keep their three older children. So if you're an unfit parent, or you're both unfit to look after newborns and a 2-year-old, why didn't they take the three older ones?
Well, exactly. And who wants to adopt older children these days? Sadly, real abuse situations are being ignored, or the children are being taken and put into foster care, foster homes, which I call, and many others in this fight call, foster prisons.
The front.
That's where they're drugged up, and that's where the medical kidnapping and the trafficking happens that way. You can look into your local foster homes and local CPS departments and actually look for their private contracts with local pharmacies, different things of that nature. And that brings up a point. I really want people to start looking into their local departments. You have to realize that this is not a bigger Epstein trafficking thing. This is locally happening around you. The hospitals are incentivized, schools are incentivized, everyone is incentivized to report abuse. And then, now, for example, we have $20 million plus afforded to Florida, towards Title D funding, which mainly goes to case planning, case management, administrative salaries. A small portion goes to the children, and there's no incentives to return the children. So,
Went to a local coalition last week for child trafficking here in my town in Naples, and I was really happy to see the turnout. There must have been 30 or 40 people. There was some law enforcement. We had a guest speaker, and he was a man who's well known. I think he saved a couple of children. He was an elderly man, very nice. He did like a PowerPoint presentation. But honestly, Megan, we told him, those of us in the audience, I shared your story because I had just come from your hearing on Monday,
yeah,
Wednesday
thank
evening.
you.
Other people were talking about, they didn't have Disney listed as one of the places where child trafficking occurs right here. It's like at schools, at bus stops, in stores. I mean, in places, girls clubs, like places that you wouldn't think. And Disney, I mean, come on, like the number one place where I think they have like allegedly underground tunnels and all kinds of things go on in Disney. So, but anyway, that's the kind of local you're talking about. You're talking about finding out about groups like that. And there are a lot of people out there right now that are hungry to come together to start saving our children.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what you can also do. I mean, first, people need to start looking not just into groups that already know it. They need to, for themselves, be looking into their local departments, what affiliations, who's on the boards of that, what's being done with their funding. This is a public service. Again, this is supposed to be a service to parents, not a way to take children and profit and break families up. So I really want people to start looking into their local departments, and again, those affiliations, and follow that chain up, follow the money, follow where the funding's going and who's getting it and what their track records are. That also goes into judges and the circuit courts and local lawyers and attorney firms and things like that. Really start looking into that. And then what we do, yes, Tara, you're absolutely right. Get together. Other parents in your town, people that are like-minded like you, people that would understand this, or if they don't, that would be an opportunity to educate people and that they would have convictions about it. Because now, we've talked about enough. There's been parents in this fight for over a decade and more to get their children back. And us parents fighting, we're having to speak out, we're having to learn law, we're having to grieve our children, fight to get them back all at the same time. And we really need the masses. It's not an opposition anymore. This is not political, like I said before. And now it's really about getting those people that, say, oh, well, there must have been a reason that our children were taken, or, oh, he or she should just do the case plan and they'll get them back. Well, that's actually a great opportunity and grace to say, well, actually, did you know that that's not true? Like, I would have thought, I absolutely see what you're saying. I would have thought the same thing years ago, or I did. But, unfortunately, this crazy world we're in these days. And did you know this? Did you know about this? Do you know this aspect or that aspect? And that's a great moment to really teach people to come together, and also to just break down these walls of division that, we're really seeing in today's society, so that we can come together. And it's about protecting our children. This isn't like a very controversial thing. It should be a no question kind of
Absolutely.
topic.
So you went into the hearing thinking it was going to be more of a unifying type of a hearing to get closer to your children. It was announced that your parents are actually wanting to end your parental rights permanently. And we had to leave, so we felt bad because you were in that hearing for about an hour all by yourself. And when you came out, you were very upset, obviously. So
Yeah.
can you just tell us what the outcome of that hearing was?
Well, it was, again, I was berated because of procedure, because of not being a lawyer. And, to me, that's very sad. These are real lives. These are real children. This isn't a boat or a house or a car. These are real lives. And to really just blatantly see how, the truth is not heard in the court. These are judges and attorneys that are making decisions over lives when they, to this day, have never even seen me with my children. They've never, questioned me. Like I said, there was no investigation. I've never been able to tell my side. We had a trial that I was denied, my witnesses. I was denied I did evaluations. I've been shopped to therapists since I was 8 years old. I've been sent, all over by my parents to try to get a diagnosis my entire life. And the only diagnosis they've ever gotten was, again, narcissistic abuse. You need to take responsibility. Meghan, you need to take responsibility, John Reve Walsh, and they refuse to do that. And that seems to be a theme that we've seen, to go a little off track here, but it seems to be a theme that we've seen with my parents. There's this notion of public persona versus private life. And, their lifestyle, they have really sadly kept hidden as much as they could for 40 years, to do the work that they do and the philanthropy and have this image, when actually, again, I do not want to be in this place, but the records are there, the testimonies are there, all of it to show that, their lifestyle of promiscuity, drug use, domestic violence and issues have stemmed back since before my brother Adam was even taken, and while he was alive. So, it's very unfortunate and kind of very creepy and eerie, I have to say, at the same time, to see, all the allegations that they've made against me be, wildly what my mother most likely should have, been looked at for, at least we'll say that,
Well,
right?
it's called
Back when
projection,
my
right?
brother was alive. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's called projection, right? I mean,
It's projection. It's
yeah.
narcissistic abuse. It's covert narcissistic abuse. I've been a trained therapist and healer for years now. I took the shopping me around and I turned it around into good and how I could help other people. Aside from this whole CPS issue and fighting for other families, I did do a lot of stuff for the community and within healing, and especially related to trauma, childhood trauma, awakening, and life coaching and different things like that. So, I've been in it, and I love, the right kind of therapy. I love people healing. I love, seeing that we all have stuff, but this is a huge just bastardization, demonizing what it is. This is narcissistic abuse. I started going no contact with my parents after they tried to film me and assaulted me in front of my children, where my mother bit me and everything that we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
I did go no contact, which is at the advice and counsel of a therapist, as well as myself at that point, then being a professional. And they couldn't take it, which is what we know in narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gaslighting, it's retaliation, and they're using projection. Absolutely.
Yep. So, parents used to have the constitutional right to make decisions for their children. These are inalienable rights without government interference, unless there was proof of abuse or neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And, but after there was a Supreme Court ruling, it was like the parental rights doctrine in 2000, that now after that, the courts are no longer consistently uphold the rights of parents. It seems to have shifted so that the government wants to raise our kids. The government wants them at school longer. They want to teach them what they want to teach them without us knowing that we all see what's going on today with all the crazy stuff in school. So do you think that, so by the way, how old are your kids? Because people ask me and I don't know the exact ages.
Yeah, when they were taken, they were 18 months, 4 and 8. Now it's been a year.
Okay, so gosh, a little one. Like you said, it's hard on the kids, and it's hard on both of you to have
They
that
cry
situation.
and beg to come home twice a week. This is on ACE scores and everything for trauma, childhood trauma. I mean, this is bi-weekly trauma that they're doing to my children and myself. And, they're begging to come home. The courts ignore all of the visitation reports. We've had supervised visits twice a week for a year. And when, the supervisors are saying she's a wonderful mother, they have a great bond, they beg to be together. We've even had the baby report physical abuse from my mother in front of my father, and my son, my 4-year-old backing, or 5-year-old now, backing that up. And that was, ignored, and the case was closed. They didn't do anything about it. Even after my own allegations of physical abuse from my parents, which were ignored. And so, they just keep changing the case plan, and this is what they do. I'm not unique. They will give you hope. They will tell you, just do the case plan, just do this, you're almost there. And then you go to a hearing and they've ordered 2 more services, or they found a loophole with their internal, doctors and therapists and but where's the child psychologists? Where are the people actually thinking about, from the perspective of the children, looking up into these situations and being put through this, how this is affecting them, what really is in their best interest, how to handle it? I mean, none of that is even, it's said to, but it's not taken
But
into.
I don't. That's the part that's so baffling. Is that just because your dad is so powerful that he can take that stuff out and omit it? Because just the fact that you do not have due process, you haven't had, an investigation. You haven't. It hasn't been proven that you're neglectful or that you're abusing your kids. So I don't understand how legally they can get away with what they're doing.
Well, and that's what it's become. Unfortunately, it's become that if I got mad at you or my neighbor these days, I could call CPS and say, so and so's abusing their children, and then that's when it's over. They come in, they find any reason, they'll say they smelled this or saw one little thing, and they take your children. It's very terrifying. It is criminal. It is absolutely criminal. So people don't realize that that's what's going on. And, again, that's secondful. Then you go to a trial or things like that, and they're accepting affidavits of hearsay. This has become, CPS has become like the thought police, and they're psychics now. It's wild. We're preventing potential future adverse events. No, you're creating very real adverse events that will affect these children and are breaking up families for the rest of their lives, while you collect a salary and move on with your day to the next one.
So your parents have basically left you indigent. They took your house. They took your money. You're staying with a friend. By the way, I have Megan's Give, Send, Go information right there. Please, if you can be generous, or even just a little bit, goes a long way. And we hear this all the time. Just donate $5, and it's so easy. If 1,000 people did that, it adds up in the end. So please. Go to givesendgo.com/Meghan Walsh, spell Megan with an H. A lot of people forget that silent H.
Yeah.
And I will have the actual link down below so people can just click on it.
Thank you. I could not, I don't want to interrupt real quick, but I do want to make sure that I thank everyone that has supported so far. I could not have done this. This goes towards being able to see my children, being able to pay to keep our things until this is resolved, so that they have a home to come back to and have their things, which, again, they have made me indigent and tried to take my entire life they have taken my entire life without killing me physically. But, the support, I could not get through it without the prayers, first and foremost, without people supporting me on social platforms, without people like you, Tara. And yes, unfortunately, in this world, money is what makes it go round. And I have had amazing support for the past 10 months or year plus that has kept me afloat from that. And I could not do it without the amazing individuals that have gone to Give, Send, Go or reached out on their own. And, again, I am fighting for all of us for this. Right. I will continue to do this once I can get my children back. We can heal and really be able to, that's what I'm dying to do, Tara. I just want to get sober so we can really address these issues. And again, it's not about fighting with people, going after people. It's really about us all putting down our pride, including the people involved in the system. There are people that go in with great intentions, but once you're in there and you see what it is and you're silent, then you're complicit. And, a lot of people in there are worried about losing their jobs and that's their livelihood and they have children at home and stuff. But there's simply, if we can put down our pride, if we can say as a society, oh man, we allowed a system that is really truly damaging us and more specifically our children, and furthermore profiting from it. We need to really readdress this with services, with different approaches to handling these situations, because no situation is alike. There are so many nuances with children and with families, that to have this blanketed system where these lives are determined over timelines and deadlines and case plans and rulings, I mean, that's polar opposite, and it's actually evil. There's no humanity in that. It's very dehumanizing, and it also sets up our children. What, we're going to have a future, everybody, of children that have been torn from loving homes and told that they were abused and adopted out and never knew that their families and their parents really loved them and wanted them. And how does that pan out as adults, and this displaced space that all of these children are going to come from, if not messed up from all the drugging up. Foster homes will prescribe 40 pills to children a morning and give them to the children, and it's all the same pills because they have a contract with the pharmacies. I mean, it goes into so many areas, and that's why these kind of conversations get into different spaces. But I do want to thank the supporters so much for really being open, to this and to really backing us and helping me be able to fight. I could not do it without
donating to your fund and helping you. You're such a public figure because of who your family is. To me, we're just helping you. We're paying you, because eventually the end it's going to be a good ending. When, I don't know, probably not tomorrow morning, unfortunately.
Right.
But in the end, when you do win, imagine the amount of spotlight that we can put on you, and you're going to be shining. You're going to be a shining beacon for so many families standing behind you right now, because that's what's happening. You're the head of the spear right now. So just look at donating to Meghan, $5, $10, $100. They were just paying her for what she's doing, because she's paving a way. You're paving your own pathway that doesn't exist right now.
Thank you, Tara.
And it needs to exist. It's a pathway that needs to happen. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I've truly lost everything, including my children, for the truth. And, I want us to all be able to be at a better space and do things about the, injustices in our lives. We can approach these things in grace, and in truth, for justice. And that's all it is. And for a better future.
I want to discuss that. So you display so much grace in person all the time. Like I said, you're very consistent. You're very constant with your messaging. I can't help but feel that if I were you, I would want to do a tell-all on my family. I would want to call a publisher and say, okay, get out your recorder and your pen and paper. I'm going to write a book and I'm going to sell millions. Like, bring out the dirt on your parents. It sounds like it's there. So what's stopping you? How do you not do that at this point?
Well, I pray for grace every day. So thank you for that. That's huge for me, and something that, we're not perfect. And, again, I've been in the past a victim of narcissistic abuse. I've definitely participated in reactive abuse and, that fight or flight and those trauma things when I was in my 20s, and, didn't really know how to handle being abused or what was really going on, even, for that matter. But I do first and foremost always honor my mother and father. It is my mother and father, and, I've loved them. I still love them. I forgive them, because, I mean, what kind of a place is what kind of internal or human condition is that for somebody to be able to do these kinds of things, to anyone, let alone their own children and grandchildren, especially when you have a center for exploited children, but you're exploiting us, things like that. So I have always tried to honor my mother and father. I did just want them to get help. We all know that they've been through crazy trauma and different things, and they've never really been able to get help for that. And so I really wanted to be able to be here. But, again, the truth is the truth. And I'm not responsible for their past or their actions or even what they're doing now. And, if it's wrong, then that needs to be addressed. Justice needs to be served. And, the right thing needs to happen. And we look to people in our justice system, law enforcement, all of that my dad is, the hero for.
Very chummy with
Uh,
them. Yes.
yeah, to really, correct these and get to the bottom of this. And it's just really sad to see also how people go to bat for someone when they've met him once or shaken his hand or, got an award from him. And so they go to bat for him so viciously when, I'm his daughter. I grew up with him, and I've honored him. I love my dad. This is heartbreaking. I've lost my family. I've lost everything, to really question the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, really question my brother's, case and murder, which has been controversial across the country for 40 years. I don't know why I'm the bad guy for doing that. I thought he'd be proud, like I always say, but
So do you think,
I
so go back
it's
to
still
that
all,
time.
I want the truth to come out. I don't know everything. I wasn't there for everything, but I really do think that it's time for the public to look back at my brother's case. The case files are all online at I believe it's Frustrated Witness and Justice for Adam, both.com. And his case files are all there. We've gone through it. We've got teams that, really show, different scenarios and the most likely possibility, with that case. And I really just want people to start, looking at their own discernment and see what's going on, because it has been a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that's prevalent across our society today, and that we're having problems. We see these oligarchs and these, abuses of power, and, people that are maybe, public figures and have other private lives that we don't know about. And, God forbid my father would be lying, God forbid John Walsh would be lying to hide things. I don't
So
know.
do you think that if you had never questioned your brother's murder, and if you had never questioned your dad about his potential involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and that whole island, do you think that you would be in the position you're in now?
I don't think maybe as soon or as much, but I do know that this is something that happens in elite families. Everyone's assigned, this is just to put it in one perspective, but, this kind of has a role that they play. And, I had been asking my parents, leading up to this, with what I had seen, the people they were hiring, the way things had started happening in our lives. And I literally have text messages of me asking my dad, are you trying to get a guardianship on me? Are you trying to get a conservatorship on me? Which a lot of people, I guess now, because of Britney Spears, are more, know what that is more than they did before. But that's also a way to, commit financial, things, and to hide money, and also silence people. So, I don't know. Again, I wasn't there, but I do know that there was planning put into this, the way it was executed, the people involved, the affidavits. It's very orchestrated. I mean, I will give him that, but then again, that's what, he has a lot of those connections, and that's what he's done for 40 years. And, I've seen him make up narratives before. That's one of the things years ago I started calling him out about my own best friend's murder, which he showed 7 or 8 times on his show for ratings, when there was no, we've known from the beginning who the most likely murderer is, and they refuse to look at that, but then they keep, showing her case, and they made up a narrative about this drug addict, prostitute, and it's always this defaming women. I don't know what this is going on, excuse me, but
What does he
I
get
also
out of
watched
that,
my
though?
dad do it. I mean, I have friends that we grew up because our dads were friends, and even one of them said, "Oh yeah, my dad was this and that. My mom took me to our relatives when I was, little, and my dad made one phone call to your dad, and the next morning the house was surrounded with black SUVs. The police came in and took me and said they were taking me back to my father. They arrested my mother, and then they drive these women. They take the children. They drive these women crazy. The women, oh, she's bipolar. She has substance abuse. It's the same playbook." And then they have the children and they ruin these women. And 2 of them are not even with us anymore that I've watched him participate in taking down. So
So I don't
I
know if
didn't know
there's
that growing up, and that's what was happening. It's,
right.
oh, the mother has problems. Oh, we have to help these kids. The chest grabbing. It's all emotional manipulation to get your narrative across. That's why the first thing he brings up is my brother Adam all the
Let
time.
me just hold on a second, Meghan, because you're getting on my end. You're very tinny. So, guys, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Meghan's volume is shifted a little bit. We might just have to turn it up a little bit. But so my question to what you're talking about, and I agree with so much of it, but like, what is in it for your dad, though? Like, so if he knows more about your best friend's murder, why is he putting a false narrative on 7 times on his show? Like, what is he trying to hide something? Is he trying to cover something up?
I mean, I don't know what he's trying to do, but I do know that the case was very connected to law enforcement and what people aren't realizing about, pimps and police programs and, how and that would even go back to the Hollywood Police Department when Adam was alive and with his case. They don't, a lot of people, now we're finding out, but a lot of people before didn't think about, police corruption, police affiliations, favors, barter system relationships, things like that. And that was actually one of the first things that I asked my father's boss. He worked at the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood at the time that Adam was taken. And I actually contacted his boss, John Monahan's son, and asked him directly. I said, did they have, did your father and the hotel have a relationship with the Hollywood Police Department at all? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Of course they did. It was barter system. If a celebrity or someone got pulled over drinking and driving or whatever, oh, we'll give you a suite for the weekend, or you can come to this celebrity party, or, and it
Oh,
gets
right.
swept under the rug. And so, it's just very interesting. We'll have to one day do one on my brother's case and kind of look at the connections and how things happen through that, because it's really an interesting but blatant
Yeah.
kind of breakdown, if you will.
I think we should do that, unfortunately. And just the fact that your video had 15,000 views, people want to hear about these kind of stories. That they're curious, they want to know about the salaciousness, like I said. Whereas if you look at one of my other videos, I have something on there. One of my good friends is an expert in corporate law, governmental law, divine will. He had a father who was a legit constitutional sheriff out in New Mexico. This man,
Wow.
in fact, he just got stopped yesterday in Collier County because he has tinted windows. And all I did was explain the law to the officer, and the officer let him go on his way. Whereas I probably would have gotten a ticket because I don't know what he
Right.
knows. But
Right.
that video has about 20 views. That video should have 15 or 20,000 because it's
Mm-hmm.
something that could be
Help
beneficial
along.
to all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But I think we just take advantage of that. So yeah, let's tell your story. Let's get it out there in any way, shape, or form. And if people will see your story and help you, they're helping you even by just knowing and being interested in Adam's story, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Anything that you share is a huge help. I mean, anyone that shares the information, and again, I know what, the whole people, not believing it or talking about bad, poorly about me or anything. I'm speaking out about John Walsh. He's been a national hero. I
Right.
mean, I believe the same narrative that everyone believed my entire life. He was, again, I adored my father. Anyone that knows me knows that. And, to just because I can be strong in this, because I know that it's truth, God and the truth have kept me strong in this. And I know that my discernment is good in terms of I'm putting things out there that are documents, that are records, that are things that, have that we tangibly have, and you hit a big thing on the head about, that's a huge issue that we're seeing now in all of these people wanting this change. We're all realizing these things. We all want this change. We want to find our place in it. But then it gets left in this social media, talking, drama, getting the information.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is time to start transcending division, educating people that don't know about these things, talking and finding great ways to not compromise, but be able to talk on an even playing field or just neutrally about certain issues that we actually can all do much better on. We can find better solutions, like I keep saying. And that should be a really encouraging thing. I know a lot of people, we've all been stagnant with lockdowns and pandemics and, all this kind of stuff. Let's use our voices. Let's peacefully and gracefully change systems and issues that are not serving us, and
Let's
especially our children.
Yeah, and let's empower ourselves and it's so
Yes.
funny that you're mentioning this because and maybe it's just our time, but I'm doing a show on Saturday with a young man. We're really jazzed up about it, and we want to start changing we want to start shifting because so
Mm-hmm.
many of us are talking about the problems, and there's an addiction that comes in
Mm-hmm.
to finding out, oh, let me watch Megan's story, because it's easier to watch your story and listen to you than it is to deal with my own stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
but you kind of get stuck there sometimes. It's a negativity. Even the truth movement, I do a lot of shows about the current events, but I want to start offering solutions. I want to
Yes.
start giving real tangible ways to what you focus on expands. We all know this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've been studying the law of attraction since I was in my 20s. So if
Mm-hmm.
what you're focusing on is the negativity of Hollywood or, that even the negativity, what's going on today, it's not going to get you very far. It's not going to attract more of what you want. It's going to keep getting what you're getting. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you. And it applies to so much. And I think it's time to lift us up out of that muck and to start empowering ourselves. Everything you just said is about taking back our power because the reality is we've lost our power, Megan. We've lost our power
Mm-hmm.
as parents,
Oh,
as
absolutely.
individuals, as Americans, as citizens. And,
Mm-hmm.
our rights are being chipped away in so many different ways. So I love that. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Where
I
do you,
love that you said that. I
yeah,
think a lot of people are starting to feel that shift. And real
yeah.
quick to that, that's why I also want people to reach out. And in the future, I will be starting. And that's where we are shifting. I've had several conferences this week and really spoken to, people that have gotten involved in my, case and in this effort with me. We've had great conferences this week about how we can make actionable, just even materials, little materials for people to educate, inform, checklists of, did you look at this in your community? Did you look at that in your community? And other people can do that too. It takes all of us. That's why we were created. We need each other, and our common sense, our sovereign divine, knowings and direction are amazing, powerful things, and they aren't wrong. And we've allowed, again, systems and different things to kind of take that from us. So it's really encouraging, empowering, like you said, for people to be able to say, hey, we can get together. Hey, we can address this. And what I've always talked about with my clients and what I've learned from experience is our hardships are our greatest life directors for our purpose. And you can't know what you have not experienced. That's fact. You can never know someone's perspective unless you've been
You don't
there,
know what you
truly.
don't know. Yep.
And, we all have such different experiences. We all have different hardships. And if we can really, transform that and take the lessons from it and really see ways that we can help others through that, then that really eliminates competition. It provides space for everyone to be themselves and to have space and hold that space, and this division and all of it, because we are all so beautifully unique, including the hardships and the hard times that we go through. And that's supposed to strengthen us. That's supposed to give us more direction and more clarity in terms of how we can help others and people that have been through similar situations. And how great of, a result is that, and a network, that can span
Beautiful.
across. I do have high hopes for it if we can
I
get
I
there.
do too. Your words are resonating with me, and you mentioned sovereignty. It's one of my favorite words. It's just so rich. It's so God-centered, and sovereignty is not earned. It's a God-given right that each and every person
Mhm.
deserves and possesses. And these are inalienable rights. This means that they're not transferable to another. They're not capable of being taken away. They can only be surrendered. Now, this is interesting. So I think
Mhm.
of you, okay? The only way that anyone can, and if they are fronting that they have authority over you, because that they have to be fronting it, they can't
Mhm.
really have authority over you. The only way that they can take away your rights under the color of the law um, is they have every right in the world to trick you.
Mhm.
That's allowed.
Mhm.
It's okay for them to trick you into surrendering your rights.
And that's what
Okay.
CPS does.
Or in your case, bullying you and
Yes.
removing your kids by force. So your rights are being surrendered. You're being forced to surrender them. But even if we've surrendered them, we can reclaim them. Even if in the
Yes.
past they're inalienable, they cannot be transferred. So you have to claim them again. daily. I know you are all the time because your rights are really being infringed. But these are not just laws; these are like God-given rights.
Yes, absolutely. And I thank you for that, because and for holding the space and relaying that, because I think more people need to realize that, and that's what would really make a huge difference in the system. That right there is a huge factor in how they are getting away with this stuff. And we know people like that are just, if they can get away, give them an inch, they'll take a mile, right? So
That's why that's a cliche. Cliches
well,
that are still around, there's a reason for it. They have
there's
meaning.
definitely a reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Scary.
So to finish up here, give us the wrap up. Where does it stand now? I know you had another hearing the other day, because when you came out of that courtroom, you were in tears. They railroaded you. You were completely bamboozled, as we knew would happen. And the last thing we heard you say was they're taking your kids away
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah, I mean, they set everything up, and then the next time, the following Monday, I want people to also realize that a lot of this is coming out, and I believe it was just declared recently, um, legal abuse syndrome, and the realities of legal abuse are real, and people need to realize that, and find out what that's about, because I'm sure in one way or another, if you haven't, someone has been affected by that. And the same goes for CPS. This is, if you want to raise your children, especially if you want to raise your children traditionally, or you go against the grain of mainstream, then there is a possibility that you would be exposed, and they could come take your children. I'm not a fear monger, but we all need to realize this now as parents. And the more we don't speak up about it, that's how it's gotten to this point, and it will only get worse. Especially with the society and with trans and with all of this stuff going on. That's really very dangerous for us everyday loving parents. But yes, they have now moved again towards termination of parental rights, adopting my children out to my parents. And so we're just going to keep fighting. I mean, again, we need lawyers. If there's any lawyer out there that is not afraid to, we have everything, we've done the work. I've had great people and advocates to help me and support me. I'm very blessed for that. But we need an attorney to step forward and to really be able to, the judge even said, your motions, everything is great, but you just don't have an attorney for the protocol. First of all, everyone, that should say a lot. That should be mortifying to everybody, because that is like negating the truth, negating lives, and just saying you didn't have the jargon right, and you don't have a lawyer. So,
but can't you be given? Isn't it your right to be given one by the court?
Well, and that's what I was talking about earlier. And everyone says that, just like there must have been a reason that your children were taken. The attorneys in general take an oath to the bar of their state. They do not take an oath to their clients. So you are going in there and you're thinking that this person is representing you and defending you. And most of the time they are not. And it is a huge pitfall that would take another hour to discuss. And many of almost every parent in this fight and, fighting for their children will be able to tell you the same exact, types of scenarios. Scary enough. They will.
It's absolutely frustrating. My heart just goes out to you, as you know. I wish, I left Vero, I left that hearing last week feeling so defeated for you. And I felt like helpless. I felt like there's nothing I could do. And a lot of us felt that way. We wanted to do something. We went there hoping to make a change and I just realized, man, you were up against a behemoth. You were up against Goliath. I mean, you are. We know how that story goes, though. So if you are truly David, and you were looking at, like I said, I wish they didn't cancel that picture that I took of you sitting up there. You're up against something massive. We talked about it in my first show. I still believe it. I know there's a reason. You have to keep the faith. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. They say you're not given more than you can handle. Apparently, you're very strong. You're meek, but you're mighty.
And I'm not gonna lie, every day there are tears, and it's very hard for me to look at my camera rolls and see the beautiful life that we used to have, and I will get choked up in a heartbeat about it. I will, but you know what? I have to be strong for all of us, and I have to be strong for my children most of all. and I know what the truth is. And you know what keeps me fighting? Not only the support, but thinking about the children that, as we're even talking, how many in the hour that we've been talking that have been taken from their homes, and the parents, that are having to go through this, and just the injustices. It's just heartbreaking on how easily we could stop this and change it if we would just all get up, do something. And again, I'm trying to give people, get involved in your local communities. Please look into your local departments, question this, go picket out peacefully, hold a sign up in front across the street from your DCF or CPS department. Like, let people know that we are not okay. We know that you're kidnapping our children. It might not be the traditional definition, but it is a definition. And there's many ways to kidnap. There's many ways to traffic, and all of that, and a high profit off of it. So I just really want people to be going into their local communities, holding court watch, start court watching all over the country. It's Zoom links. You can start court watching so that there's eyes and ears. I had 35 national advocates and court watchers come on, I think it was about 2 hearings ago, and they witnessed the judge and his
that was the one I
performance.
saw. That was unbelievable how he was berating you and speaking to you as though you were doing this on purpose. You didn't have counsel, and you weren't being these hubris, like egotistic people who think, oh, I don't need an attorney, I'll just defend myself. That's you just cannot find proper counsel. And I don't know if people
and the truth hasn't been told. I mean, I want due process. I want the truth to be known, and it's a very clear, we've submitted all the evidence. It's very clear. And yeah, I'm not doing this to make some statement or anything. Believe me, I'm going against John Walsh. I'm speaking out against CPS, and I'm healing cancer naturally, which people think is crazy. So I've got enough on my plate. I'm not trying to do this to be defiant or anything. I think that people need to know their rights. I think people need to see the abuses of the legal system. And again, sadly, this is what is happening. If you just tune into it, you will hear tens of thousands of more horrific stories than mine, even within the system. It is across the country. There are people speaking out, and we need the masses who are not being put through this trauma, who are able to sit online and, have a voice and share, or have time to go downtown and actually show up. And people like you, to really step up and get involved, because then it's not just, parents that have had their kids taken, so we don't listen. Of course, they're going to say these things. No, this is a very real thing that the masses have been shown now. And if you still, so help me God, if you're still quiet about it, then you're complacent with it. You are complicit with what's going on. And that's not okay with me. I could not sleep at night if I did not speak out about this, knowing what's happening across our country and by the minute.
I like hearing that passion in you right there, that little energy you just brought, Meghan. Like, I know it must be hard for you to conjure that up, but I feel like that's what you have to go in with. That's what you need, because I know you're being so kind, and so you're kind of letting your dad off the hook a little bit. I just don't think that's going to work. But you have to follow your path.
I really respect that, but it's actually also from the abuse. I've been abused my entire life to be a people pleaser and to be in the spotlight and to be whatever my parents needed me to be at that time. And, they really do know that, I've never been a criminal. I've supported law enforcement my entire life. I've respected authority. And, they know that, and they know that that's also something that, they had me falsely arrested the day before my children's trial. So, it's absolutely terrifying to go to that courthouse, to go and be in front of these judges. And, especially a year into it, when no one has been concerned about, protecting my children and myself. I mean, we were technically victims of domestic violence by my parents, and my children have never experienced trauma. I kept that as an adult issue and between my parents. But when they started, alienating my daughter, from me, and it was having huge effects on her coming home and being in a family. They use the cake and cookies and mansions and nannies and the parties. That's what the elites do. And so you don't really realize the abuse or the brainwashing or the narcissism or manipulation or any of that. And these are children that they're doing it to, and they're coaching them. And the baby said that his grandmother, my mother, excuse me, hit him in the face and kicked him in the neck. And 2-year-olds don't make that stuff up, and 5-year-olds don't.
My goodness.
So, and then again, that was ignored. So it's just, these different, it's a big picture. It's a difficult case. These are very difficult cases, but for a year, I've been able to break it down for people. I do feel blessed for that. And I've had so many people around me to, really reinforce what the truth is and give me that conviction that you talk about. I mean, the Lord gives me that conviction, but, to be able to support that, and it will get better. That's exactly why they're doing what they're doing now, and to terminate my rights, because they know, this whole goal has been to break Meghan. They want to try and get a conservatorship, like I said, and then they'd be able to access financial stuff. They'd be able to keep me quiet. They'd be able to drug me up. They'd be able to do all these horrific things that I would literally become a slave. My children and I would be an indenture. Well, yeah, I guess indenture, because we get paid to live, but a slave essentially, and owned. And I just want to be free. That's all I've ever, wanted from my parents. I just wanted to work and have my children and a simple life and be free. So hopefully that day will come soon.
Well, I don't know what you're going through. Like I said, I want to help in any way I can. Guys, buy Meghan a cup of coffee. I don't know if you've ever do this, going across the alley. Sometimes I'll say, I'll pay for the next guy behind me going through the toll booth. But pay for Meghan's toll. Small little thing. Anything can help you guys, just to help her. We need to get her counsel. That's Meghan's not going to take this money and go buy a fancy car or new clothes. She's going to use this for her defense, and she's going to help pave the way to show what's going on with CPS, DFS, and to get her kids back. And once you get your kids back, it's going to open up floodgates. I really believe that's going to happen. That's the only thing we can believe. That's the only thing we can believe.
We feel it, Tara. I can't thank you enough for that, because we feel it and we know that. And again, people that have supported me, that's gone towards being able to see my children. They make you pay for your visits. You have to supply everything. It's kept our belongings here. And it's also been able to, even though I haven't had formal representation, I have been able to compensate amazing people behind the scenes that have dedicated so much time to helping me and advising me and different things like that. So, hopefully we will be able to get an attorney. But if not, we really, regardless, thank everyone for the support. We couldn't do it, and we will keep doing it. This is a grassroots effort, honestly, that we're doing, and that, again, all the parents that have been in this fight have been doing for over a decade. I'm just joining. So, rest in peace, Nancy Schaefer, Linda Collins, the amazing people that, are no longer with us, that have spoken out about this system for a long time. And please, I just ask people to research and educate themselves and try to feel convicted about, protecting our children truly within your community.
Excuse me. I love it. I have my cat here. She's meowing up at me, so I'm leaning over, petting her.
We've got ours going around too.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. I think what you're doing, I think you're shedding more light than you know. Sometimes we don't realize the impact we have. I think you're, like I said, looking at my YouTube channel. By the way, I will be back on YouTube. I'm going to put this up on YouTube. I'm banned still until May 17th. I had a man of God on, Clay Clark, back in February.
Okay.
And within 20 minutes, they canceled me, banned me. If you don't think that there is a problem with our free speech being taken away in our country, guys, I'm no terrorist. I wasn't speaking hatred. I had a man of God on my show who has a strong point of view about the vaccine, which who doesn't nowadays? We have a right to feel what we feel. We have a right to have an opinion, but my story is not unique, unfortunately, but I will be posting this. It did not go live on Rumble. I don't know why. I couldn't figure it out. I have to blame the operator, but we were live on Facebook. I think we were live on Twitter. We'll see. But I will post this up in all these places for people to see. And as soon as my YouTube channel is free, I'll post it there so we can maybe capture some of those people
Thank
that
you.
don't know we're talking
Thank
again.
you. Yeah, and that leads me. I'm bad at all this stuff. I'll get better. I'm getting better, I should say. But everyone can find me on Twitter. That's the main place that people can find me at Meghan Walsh _ So again, that's with the H, MEGHAN WALSH _ Thank you, Tara, right there.
Yep.
Everyone can find me there. If you can't directly message me, just leave a comment on one of my posts, and I will message you. There's also some other accounts I've been told, saying that they're me or different things. So please be aware of that. That comes with the territory. If you haven't heard directly from me or know that it's my account, it's this below with the Ronald Reagan. Sorry, I'm not doing this. I'm making a circle. Our YouTube,
I know what you're talking
Twitter,
about.
our Twitter profile pictures are circles. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's of Ronald Reagan and myself as a child. That's actually my profile. So, I just want people to be clear on that. I don't want anyone to be misconstrued. So please reach out to me. I will get back to you directly. Might not be immediately because of everything, but I will, get directly back in touch. And I thank you all.
Thank you, Meghan. You know, I adore you. Pray every day for you, and we're going to keep in touch. You'll be back on. I think, yeah. Let's do an update. Let's give them what they want in terms of your brother someday. We'll do a tell-all on Adam. I think people would love to hear about all that, and then we'll use that as we will. And in the meantime, I know we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
Everyone, please share and like this video. Please share it with anyone you know. We need to spread the word. Thank you, Meghan, for coming on to Sacred Valley. I will see you next time.
Thank you, Tara. God bless you. God bless everyone.
You, girl. See you later, everybody.